Another episode of
Discovering Our Journey.
I'm your host, MC.
I'm JC. And so welcome to another gorgeous day with us this week. I cannot believe, man, this week has been flying by.
Yep.
But we have changed our location.
That's right. We're outdoors now.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are outdoors.
Outdoors.
We don't know if it's going to be a change, but since we've been changing things around, we thought, hey, let's see how this looks, right?
We're
How it
discovering
feels.
our area now.
I love that. Yes,
That's
we're
right.
discovering our
We discover within ourselves.
Hey, right?
What
We
works.
got to change
Beautiful.
things around.
We got Four Sister Falls right here.
It is. It brings a calm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what changing your environment is, and this is what I've been working hard on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about having growth mind, right? So I had to let go of a lot of things, stop procrastinating, and actually get things done. So I got my beautiful garden, and so we get to enjoy it now.
That's right. They
Yeah.
say that if you listen to raindrops when you go to sleep, it's supposed to help you.
Like sleep.
Rain. Yeah, like the rain crashing down. Supposedly, not thunder, sorry, just like raindrops. Like the
Raindrops.
drops, yeah.
So it gives
That's
you
what
calm, or does
yeah.
it give you like inspiration?
Well, supposedly it calms you and gets you into that sleep. The raindrops. I don't know.
Hey, I like
I don't
that.
know.
I like that. Well, that's beautiful. But so today we're going to be talking about people going through crisis, because I'm going through that season in my life right now where right now this is my season actually to just calm, to kind of like sort out some of my stuff that I have and just kind of enjoy it, I feel.
Yeah. Now, when you say crisis, do you mean unknowing crisis that we all kind of load onto ourselves and stuff? Because I mean that's the most dangerous and the most difficult.
It is. It is. Right now I have a couple of really close people that I know who made strategies of their lives, right? And so now they're older, time has caught up, and so we're here now, and is the spouse or the family struggling with, everything that has happened in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether it's them aging older or just getting sick, it's never easy. Like that kind of crisis is just not easy. It's a change.
But, there's certain sicknesses we bring onto ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's just life. The way we handle it, whether it's something physical, something tangible, just different things. I have a friend who recently just was playing football, and I've always wanted to join a team, and for whatever reason I haven't, when I was in my 30s. I mean, now I'm in my late 40s, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it now.
You
But-
break things, you sprain things.
Well, yeah,
Don't do it.
yeah. I'm just, you know what? I got saved, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And she's thinking about it, like, I don't know if I want to do that again. It's, she's in her later 30s, so she's like,
Let me rethink that.
or middle 30s, but still, she's
Yeah.
like, I heard it. I'm like,
Body changes.
Yeah.
The body changes.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're gonna deal with those situations through the rest part of our lives, and it's like,
Absolutely.
we're gonna she got surgery, so like when I tore my meniscus when I was 26, they said you're gonna get arthritis if you do surgery a lot sooner. So I said, yeah, no, I don't want it. I'll wait. So I waited a whole year and something after tearing my meniscus.
Ugh, yeah, no. But we talk about life and how it has different seasons, right? The Bible reminds us always that it says in Ecclesiastes 3:1-4, there is time for everything, a time for weeping, a time for laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. You're not weak or broken for feeling pain. You're human, and God sees it all, right? I say that because we really need to remind ourselves that there is a bigger force, right?
Yeah.
Out there, and we just got to remember that. That's what this whole thing is in discovering your journey is finding out that freedom. So when people get sick, why do we react differently?
As far as
It's either you're the one that caused things and people react to that. You know what I mean? I think it's a good thing when crisis hits because it challenges your character, right? And then you, as the person who is going through the crisis, you actually get to grow from it if you choose to, right? And it's hard. That's why we say there's no growth without pain in every single time we end it, because you have to actually want to grow. Not many people do, though. They take it and we throw pity parties to ourselves, and we need to remind ourselves to have patience with each other. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and it's this difficult situations that sometimes. I mean, there's things that you can't foresee. I've had a good friend of mine who was in a motorcycle accident, not that long. I mean, quite some time ago, but he was already older.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had to be pushing, let's see here, 40 something. I think when it happened.
Yeah.
And honestly, the accident that he had, man.
Left him.
No, he recovered. Like, people were just astonished that he was a very fit guy, though. I mean, another person. If I would have went, it's like I'd have been like right here, said, "Hey guys, how you doing?" In a wheelchair.
Really?
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, we're talking about, and he does. Luckily, the conditioning that he did with his body is he was a marathon runner. So he's been, marathon runner. So he's a light frame, even though he's a tall guy, light frame.
Yeah.
So the recovery wasn't heavy on himself and everything. And he worked his muscles. So that walking and everything,
Yeah.
it's just, it's insane.
Yeah. Have you guys ever gotten any, any injuries like that bad, where you're just like, you're walking miracle? I mean, I would love to hear things like that, stories like that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we want to talk about next, too. I want to start kind of flowing into the spiritual part of all of this world. Because, come on, we can't lie when we say people don't talk about ghosts.
Yeah.
There's ghosts all around. People be saying, oh, that thing moved. Oh my gosh. Or when someone died, my tata or something.
We saw, hey, someone looked out the side right there. What? I was like, that's happened in my house before. I'm like, someone looked at me down the hallway. What's going on over there?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
dude. And this is a spiritual battle. This whole world is. What's crazy is that I finally got the understanding about death. And I think that's why I'm so free, I feel. Okay? So I finally understood what it meant. In Genesis, how it talks about Adam and Eve and how they sinned. And he said, if you touch that tree, you're going to die. Right? So here's the thing. And it's like, whoa, it's crazy. Death was already there. Okay? It's like a maquinita. We went to Disneyland, right? And there was like this really cool Pinocchio machine thing. And you had to put the quarter in. And then once that quarter went in, then the whole thing came to life. Right? And so when Adam and Eve did the wrong thing, did the sin, right? Both of them. Mm-hmm. Someone had to die. A person had to die. And God shows in the Bible his beautiful mercy that he took himself as legal man, right? Walked on the earth, showed us how to do, and then died our death for us. And then death was always there. See, but it wasn't active. That's why when the Bible says that he took the sting of death, it was always there. It's just when you decide to hurt someone, to lie, cheat, steal, do something from the commandments that is wrong, you activate death. You are purposefully hurting someone. And one thing that came to mind about this is that a person that's really close to me that's going through something was kind of upset with that person. It was their feeling, but then you got to remember that when you cause more hurt to somebody, you're kind of activating the death, right? So that's why God says a lot of times, like those who can, it's better to give than to receive. Those who are strong enough to take, I don't know, don't activate that death. I don't know. I don't know how to wrap that in, but it's that deep though. And it's that spiritual that we have to really tie our minds around it. Did it make sense?
I mean, if you're basically saying death as fact of a weight on somebody, maybe, you put that pressure on them, you put that, whatever it is that you're putting from your comments, from your talks, or your maybe inaction in certain, is more, I see it more as a weight that you put on somebody,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sometimes someone could even be like, you're going to be the death of me. They say that.
Oh
Right?
my
They have
gosh, yeah.
You're going to be the
Remember
death
that
of
saying.
right. There's that saying that you're going to be the death of
Yes.
me. So it's like, what you just do things so crazy that you put all this on me, and you're going to be the death of me because. In that sense, I can see what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know. I think that's something I've been while I've been in my garden. I've just been really meditating about all that. Just like the herds, it hurts. I have such an affinity to people. Like I love people, and I try to understand like the Bible all the time to try to really understand. And I've really got to understand by becoming a parent. Now that my kids are kind of doing the mischief things to me, and the things that I did as a kid. Yeah, so I called my sister, and it was good because we're not super close, right? But I called her, talked to her, and it kind of opened doors for us to kind of start, a new season together. It was really nice. It was really nice.
Nice.
And so, yeah. So it causes a lot of healing when you really just sit and think. And, I noticed I'm disconnected. I'm disconnected from phones, from music and everything. And that also helps to give me that understanding to really think about things,
Yeah. Definitely does. Definitely does. And sometimes, like you're saying in relationships, I think the hard part to understand or to work with is when you realize that, you and your partner are one.
Oh, yeah.
So, sometimes when you hurt someone, it could be, like I said, you hurting yourself, which
Yeah.
causes the hurt. So has to do with your job, has to do with your health, has to do with how you spend the money. It's, how, you guys have to be in sync because if not, that's a big situation that is just, waiting to erupt.
Yeah.
Take accountability, how much you guys put in, sometimes the wife stays at home, sometimes you both work. It's like, so it's one of those things where there has to be balance in everything because if not, it can be very hurtful later. They start to
Absolutely.
resent people and resent situations and be like, well, all these years, this is what I did, and all these years, this is what you did, and it's like,
And someone has to be the initiator too,
yeah,
because we all change. And so you
Yeah.
have to realize, right? Your partner's changing.
yep,
And so if you're the initiator, like get to know where they're at.
Yeah.
It's important because a lot of times guilty, right? We're just like, what's wrong with you? You're crazy. What do? You make yourself busy. You become a workaholic, and just to avoid actually just dealing with what's happening.
And then what about the person, let's just say you're working your butt off and then your partner wants to be supportive so doesn't say nothing. So it's like, where do you go there?
That's a
so
big
it's
one,
like,
too.
he understands that you're bringing in the money and maybe your partner, doesn't work as much or doesn't make as much
Yeah.
and realizes it. And realizes that you're just like, I'm trying to make that money. So
Yeah.
it's like, whether it's the male or the female, how do you be supportive, but then be like, hey, what about the family?
Yeah.
And then in areas where you can't even do that sometimes, it's like sometimes someone's got to go to work,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a toughie.
It's a toughie. It's a
Yeah.
toughie. But how to uplift people? I got a list here. So listen without judging, encourage honestly, pray with them and for them, right? That's huge for yourself. Offer help, even if it's small, and speak life, right?
Yeah. I think a big thing is also is, at least once, if not twice a year, sit down with the family, have a real, talk about where you guys want to be.
Absolutely.
I don't think people do that enough. They just kind of go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And they don't set goals. We always talk about setting goals for ourselves as individuals, but as a collective, with your family, I think it's very important to set certain goals and say, hey, this is where we want to be.
Yeah.
How do we have to work at it? Is there something that, maybe I can take off the plate, put you on the plate, to
Yeah.
be able to make sure that you guys achieve those goals and working towards it. And I mean, honestly, it's a lot easier said than done to achieve them.
Yes.
But, I think the most important part is going in that direction.
Yes.
Because if you're not even trying to go in that direction, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong because you guys got to at least be working towards it. Let's just say you're not going to get there where you want to because life happens. But I think working towards those goals is like the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I was those TikToks drive me crazy because they feed you things that they know, and even sometimes that you don't even want. They start just putting things up that, it's annoying, but it's really cool because I saw one that was saying, "I don't work with men who don't trust their wives." I said, "Dang." It's true though. Remember, logical, we're the heart. And it's like, if you can't even trust your own wife and be faithful to her, how are you going to be faithful and trust a stranger and do business with them?
Yeah,
I thought that was unique.
it is.
Interesting.
It is. But there's a lot of people that sometimes feel that way about their partners, not even only their wives. It's like I don't.
You shouldn't, though.
I know you shouldn't.
That's
no,
like
no.
biting your own self.
But people, I feel comfortable with that, and it's like, no, you got to trust the person you're with.
Do you trust your partner? I hope you trust your partner, right? And if you don't, you guys got to set that
talk.
date. Well, we ain't got to talk. You're gonna talk to your spouse. I'll talk to mine. But you got to create that space and make that date night happen. Remember how you got your partner, because it's so important that you talk about what is happening, right?
Yeah, with no trust, there's just no growth. I mean, you
No.
can't grow something if you don't trust. So, how are you guys going to work together? How are you guys going to be able to manage? You guys are really just living individual lives and trying to make it work together. That's really what's going on. I mean, people do it though.
Yeah.
Have their own kind of lives, their own kind of accounts, their own kind of whatever.
I know.
And it works. I mean, to an extent.
For them.
Yeah, and to an extent. To an extent, because the thing about it is that you have to trust your partner in order for you guys to grow.
Absolutely.
So it just has to be that way.
Whew, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But about the spiritual thing, have you seen any ghosts growing up?
Yeah.
Remember when you're
I've
walking
seen some
down the
things.
hallway and you're like, "Kukuya."
I mean,
I heard something fall.
and you know what? And it's not more recent as an adult. So we have my wife has a friend, has a house, and we went to the house, and she had said things happen, TVs turn on, this and that.
Oh,
And we experienced
no.
it.
TVs turn on?
Just the volume goes up, goes down. We were even at the
Oh, but
parents'
then
house.
that could be stuck volume.
We're at the parents' house. Radio came on right behind my wife, and it's like, whoa!
Oh, it just
okay.
turned on.
Oh, it just turned on. So, and we went back to her house where things were just turned off, and I know it could be radio, whatever. So I'm just like, man, all right, I want to feel. Oh yeah, just be careful. There's a lot of energy. I'm like, all right. So they have one of those detached garages from the house. So I went out the front of the house, and I went around the back, right, and I'm going. And I'm like, whoa, like I can feel my skin just like, I'm like, dude, someone's here. It's like, I could feel like a
Something.
presence. Like, I'm like, wow. And I'm not scared. I mean, I got God in my life. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm a little scared, but enough to keep going forward. And I'm like, whoa, like it felt like I went into it, like it was something like,
Wait, where were you heading?
I was just going around the house.
Okay, and the outside.
Through the outside,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
I was going
okay.
from the front yard around the back to the backyard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then there was like it was one of those garages where they had like a little room in the back before the garage. Back
Yeah.
in the days, they had it that way. So I walked in and I kind of stuck my head in there and I'm like, ooh, what? That's weird. Like I've never felt like that. Like I've felt energies before, or I thought I did. But that day I was like, wow, this is crazy. Just like looking inside I don't know, it just felt really weird. So then I went inside and I was like, hey, I go, there's something going on back there. I go right about here, right
Did
about
it
there.
feel threatening? Did it feel like just like
I didn't feel
like
threat.
thick? Did
I
it
didn't-
feel
It felt
dark?
thick. It felt thick. It just felt like when the closer I got, the more I felt like someone was looking at me or something. Like I felt like more
Something.
like looking at me,
Yeah.
like hey, hey, sorry. So it felt weird.
Wow,
So then when I
yeah.
told her and stuff, she's like, yeah. Well, back there in that room, that's where the guy passed away.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, that's why. Yeah. So there's a lot of things and this and that. I'm like, that's why I felt all that. I was like, wow, I've never felt that before. Not to that extreme. Not to that extreme, but yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, I when I was younger, I definitely saw things. I thought I was a little crazy. My mom went to go get me medical help. But no, and then my grandma, she went and she prayed for me, right? So it's two
Get an
different,
exorcism.
right? But it was crazy because I do really believe that it was like a lot of the negative emotions that my parents were kind of unknowingly bringing into the house. And so, because I would have dreams, I would see things. Yeah, it was terrible because it was just like being little, you just didn't want to sleep. and so you would lose sleep. I would feel delusional. You know what I mean? It was
Wow.
very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable.
And what
But
about as an adult?
but when I would, because my grandma prayed for me, right? When I would run to the bathroom and pray, it would go away. And what's crazy is that, like, I started to understand that, but I don't know why I just wouldn't do it like right off the bat. Like, it's almost like, I don't know. I don't know. But
Is it a
that's
certain prayer, or was it just?
no, just
Just
Jesus.
yours.
I just pray that you just, I believe in you and I just want you to get this stuff out of here because it's scaring me, and I'd go, I'd take a while to go back, but I'd go back and it'd be calm. But I don't know. I don't know. I always thought it was crazy, but it makes sense now. As an adult, I did move in when I had my daughter and into a little house, and weird things were happening. Weird things were happening. I had a family friend pastor come and pray for the house, and he was very adamant, which I didn't understand then. I understand it now. How he says, I can pray for your house and that's all good and done, but you have to pray and maintain your house because you're the one that brings the spirits in. You, your kids, your husband, anyone that's in this house is what brings them in. We're the portal to all that. And I said, that's interesting. So I'm telling you, all this information that you gain, right, in the journey of walking and talking with people and their understanding, it kind of starts to correlate. And then when you're really studying, like the Holy Spirit talks to you and you start to get all this understanding, which makes sense. It's crazy. But anyways, I digress. And so as I became more and more experienced with like actually studying the Bible and praying over myself, I started to realize how much I have the capability. God gave us that capability to ward anything and everything off.
Yeah.
Anything and everything. You just really have to trust it. Faith. That's what he says. Faith, right? But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So, yeah. So, but we're going to talk a lot more about spiritual because I really think that you have to try to, I don't know, maybe, what is that word? Like, disprove. I think when I started to try to disprove God as I was young, because I was rebellious when I was young, right? I was angry, I was hurt. And so there's one point where I felt like, you know what? I'm going to disprove God. And so when I did that, I think that's where I started to really see that he really is there. And he really, like, he holds the world beautifully. I don't know. Have you ever felt that? Like where you're just like, you know what? There's just no ifs, ands, or buts.
No, I've gone through my I'm angry at God stages. It's like why, like we all do, right? So, and just understanding with stuff like that, I think is what's important because, we always ask ourselves, the big question: if there's a God, then why is there bad things that happen?
Because we do it.
And the answer is God gave us free will. So
Yep.
unfortunately, we can get in a car and go down the street and see a bunch of people and run them over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, God can't stop that because unfortunately, he gave us free will and people are going to get hurt and people are going to get, and we ask ourselves, why? But that's the thing. That's the world that we live in. We create our world and there's things that happen that you ask yourself, why does it have to happen? But, God knows why.
Yeah.
And we just got to leave it like that.
I don't think that he knows why. He's just waiting for all of us to get on board to be on the same page, which is don't do it. So if someone offers you something and says, hey, I'll give you, this much $1,000 more for you to do that, and you sell out and you do it for the money because the money was good, knowing that it's going to do something bad to someone else or hurt something else, you're kind of bowing down. And like you said, you're making that choice.
Though, the thing is that's difficult is because, like they say, thee who can throw the first stone can be whatever. Because, the problem with that is, it can be as insignificant as, watching a movie online watching, buying something from the swap meet that might not be authentic, it
Are
could
you
be,
telling on yourself?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know. Have you ever done that before?
You know what I mean? What, shopped at Swap Meet?
But what I'm saying is that, we don't know where the stuff comes from. You know what I'm saying? So, or even stuff that, fake products and stuff like that. So, there's so many ways that we decide to do things and look the other way when it's a little thing. It's just difficult.
Well, I mean, it's difficult, but that's why he says to die to yourself. Jesus says you got to die to yourself and bear up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
That's why in those moments we have the choice to do that. But when we don't, guess what? He still loves us.
Oh yeah, he's unconditional love. I mean, that's
It is like, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, make this a better world. You do. We have free will. Grow from the inside out. It makes your whole environment around you just beautiful.
Yeah.
And people start to kind of want to be close to you. It's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many things that we can not do, and there's so many things that we can do, and just work on something. Sometimes it's a lot easier to sit there and complain and to be like, why, and this and that. But, sometimes it just takes a little bit of you trying and just,
Yeah.
it's very contagious, when you're very helpful to someone, when
Yeah.
you're very giving to someone else. I try to give a lot more, in a different way. They always say, give not what you don't want, but what you don't need, but it's still good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hard. Before it's like, these shoes are done, I'm gonna go donate them, and it's like no, you got some other shoes that you can donate that aren't as bad. Donate those. It's not just about giving what you don't want anymore. It's about something that you don't need, but you have plenty of. You got to give.
Next week, join us. It's going to be our very first guest. Woo-hoo. Okay, she means the world to me. She is a leader and mentor, and we will be talking with her and seeing how she pretty much has lived her journey and has found herself here with us.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be putting out content on Fridays now, so that's the update. Fridays is going to be the content. We don't know what time yet. We will be updating you with that, but that's going to be coming up. All right, guys. We love your support. Thank you for being here. Remember, we're a community together.
Absolutely, and there's no growth
without pain.
Until next time.
Until next time, guys.
Bye.